time, we'll call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Public Works, December 9th, 2024. Roll, please, Betty.
Mayor Boyd.
Here.
Alderperson Carpenter.
Here.
Alderperson Estercon.
Here.
Alderperson Hanson.
Here.
Alderperson Ledvina.
Here.
We are all here. Item 2, public comment upon matters not on the agenda. Comments made during the public comment period shall pertain only to matters under the jurisdiction of the Board of Public Works. Anyone in person, no. Unless, Eric, you have something. I apologize. Anyone virtually have any public comment upon matters not on the agenda? If so, just state your name. Second time in virtual land, any public comment upon matters not on the agenda? Now is your time. Third and final time, any public comment upon matters not on this agenda? Let's go to the items. Item 1, approval of the October 7th, 2024 Board of Public Works meeting minutes. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by me, seconded by Alderperson Carpenter. Discussion or comments? Seeing there is none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 2, consideration and possible action on Green Bay Water Utility Billing Services Agreement. I'm going to you. Scott. Is Pam here?
So what? I thought
Oh.
she would be, but
Yeah, she's out there.
oh, is she?
Should we go to Pam?
Yeah, Pam is. She's there.
Pam, if you are there, we're gonna go to you.
Okay. So it was brought to us earlier this year from Green Bay Water Utility that this agreement has not been updated since 2015 when we first started using them for the billing services. So they had requested that we look into revising it. So they made some proposals on changes to us. Larry, Scott, and myself had met with them and kind of went back and forth with them on it. We also met with our city attorney, Tony Wakowitz, on it, and at the end came up with the agreement that I presented here and attached with your packet.
Thank you. Obviously, you're all good with it?
Yeah, I mean, it is a large increase, but at the same time, looking at what the costs are and just, I mean, they do everything from printing the bills to mailing the bills, and right now postage even in the last year has gone up. The rates have gone up twice, and we aren't paying any more than CPIW increases annually. So we are going from $86,796 in 2024 to roughly $153,000 next year with this increase. But I mean, they justified the cost to us, and I'm not sure that we could do it any cheaper in-house ourselves, let alone the heartache that we'd have to deal with hiring another person and handling all of it.
Totally get it and totally understand. However, I'll defer to the committee. Alderperson Ledvina.
So because the payments are going from monthly or from quarterly to monthly, does that mean we're going to monthly billing?
We already are.
We are doing monthly billing?
We already are doing monthly billing.
I don't pay
So
attention,
currently-
obviously.
She doesn't pay the bill in her family, so
What's
Go-
my overdue balance?
Well, every individual household gets one bill quarterly. What happens is that Green Bay Water Utility has split the city into thirds. And so 1/3 of the city is billed 1 month, another third another month, the other third the third month, and then it circles back around. So you're only getting a quarterly bill, but there are bills being created every month by Green Bay Water Utility.
So that will stay the same.
Yes, that process will stay the same, and this document or agreement just details that out. That was a change, I believe, from what they had initially started with when they started in 2015, and it was a request by Green Bay Water Utility to do it. One nice thing of doing it that way is that there is a steadier cash flow coming in then, instead of just every 3 months having revenue.
Okay. Another question.
sure, go ahead.
So when someone calls water utility with a question on their bill, are those fielded by Green Bay? And then anything that Green Bay can't answer is sent on to DPMC?
Correct.
Yeah.
The majority of those calls, yes, on billing are handled by Green Bay Water Utility.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions, comments? Alderperson Carpenter.
First, I want to thank you, Pam, for sending me the old contract. So 2015, we paid $60,000, if I did my math correctly, for this service. So then
Correct.
our CPI's gone up, whatever, $26,800 roughly. over the, from 2015 till 9 years worth. So what were those yearly increases? Do you know at all?
You know,
I do. I have those. So from what we paid in 16 to 17 was a 1% increase. I'll just read the percentage increases annually.
Yep.
2.1, 2.6, 4.1, 3, 13.3, 8.5, and 3.8%.
And could somebody then tell me where they come up, where this number comes up with the CPIW?
The
How it's-
CPIW itself is something that's set by the government. So that is something you can go Google a CPIW and you're going to find it from the Social Security Administration.
Okay, that's what's going to be my next question, and does that correlate to Social Security?
yeah, and I think you use that for pretty much everything you calculate, correct? That CPI number?
The W is specifically for, it says urban wage earners and clerical workers. There is just a general CPI, but the W is specifically for the labor. The thought was that most of their costs were labor related, but really, I mean, it's kind of a mixture of the labor and the supplies. Some of the stuff we discussed during our agreement was whether to split it out between the costs for the supplies or even specifically the cost for postage, and so that they're making sure to cover those increases because those don't always follow CPI. But at the end of the day, we thought it was easier just to use one rate and stay with the CPIW again. And if we get out of whack or we feel like we're being charged too much, either party can open the agreement again and we can discuss it.
So then, so if I'm understanding this right, this is going to probably be like a 2.5% increase next year then, or the year after, or whatever you use, because that's what Social Security is getting this year.
I didn't calculate what the CPIW is so far this year, but this would use whatever we're at for next year already. So I can't predict what 2025's economy will do here, but it would be whatever that rate ends up being. And we could, if you'd like, we can make sure we bring that back annually and kind of just let you know what that is.
Well, my concern is, I don't think it would happen as long as this isn't going off of the percentage of a raise that Green Bay gives its employees, because you said a lot of it has to do with labor. So all of a sudden Green Bay gets very generous and gives 5% raises. And this,
Oh, that's a good question.
you,
Yeah.
you know, this is where some of my concerns are. 'cause-
Right, but it sounds like it's flat out the CPIW, so that shouldn't be baked in at all, the stuff you're talking about. That's a good point.
Because, I mean, you
Correct.
you take this is a 48.5% rate increase, and that's not including the $21,243.11 we got to pay for the software and stuff. If I did my math right, but I could have done it a little wrong, but
Did you hear that part of it? He's saying that does not include the software.
would it be fair to say that this is a 48% increase without including the software that's going to be added on?
I had it actually even a little bit higher than that. I had it at a 52.5% increase without the additional cost for the software.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it's a big fee, and then the software fee is going to be figured out every year, and then we're going to pay the same increase, that CPI, on that every year. And this is getting, the software is being decided by whatever company that's doing this?
It's by the agreement that they have with North Star. So this year, the bill has already been sent to Green Bay Water Utility for our portion of the cost. Going forward, the hope is that North Star will send the bill directly to us so we can see what that cost is and make sure we're paying our fair share of that service agreement.
I think as well, though, I think you brought up, we'd probably have to hire somebody in-house if we go in-house to do this, correct?
I believe that's what I was told in the past, that they had a separate person that was helping receipt and all that, and it's not only one person, right? I mean, there's constantly questions and phone calls that are being fielded by our whole office then if that were to happen. In addition, we still have to pay for the software because we don't have a software currently that we own. And any sort of updates or agreements or things that are set up we would have to handle for as far as the direct deposit or, the paying online. It's a lot of different details. I'm not even sure one staff member would be enough to handle it for us.
By the way, I'll go to Scott in a second, but the last budget was included in there to have the municipalities work together, and then we get some cost savings, and then we could apply that toward something. That still hasn't come to fruition yet, but this could be an example of, shared services between municipalities, correct? If we pursue this down the road. If some, what I'm talking about, a maintenance, not maintenance of effort, but something where we're trying to encourage municipalities.
Innovation grant? Or?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Yeah, we could certainly look into it. I don't know because it's something we currently are already doing.
Oh.
I think innovation grants are more for new ideas of working together and collaborating to show that cost savings.
Well, then we'll bring it back and we'll change a couple of sections and subsections and make it look like it's new. Scott.
Well, on the last thing, there are several communities in the area that utilize Green Bay right now for the billing. So, they're already, that's some of the things we're saving because they're sharing all that amongst. I believe you have Ashwaubenon, their customer. I believe Bellevue utilizes them. So, there's several communities in the area.
They're going to get the same.
Well, they're utilizing Green Bay. So when it comes to the software, they break it out proportionally based on the customers utilizing that uses North.
But are they getting the same bump?
I don't know. They're in the process of negotiation.
Okay, all right. So
right
this
now.
is us going at it
Yep.
first. Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Just to expand on what Pam mentioned earlier, we used to have a full-time utility clerk that was in the, under finance, and then 14, that person retired, and that's when this, Pam's predecessor kind of looked at, do we farm it out? What do we do when we went to Green Bay? One of the challenges that at the time is, to kind of build on what Pam's saying, you have one person, but, for the amount of inquiries, covering vacations, that sort of thing, one person probably will definitely not handle it. I know, it was talked in the past, before we went to Green Bay, they were looking at adding part-time staff just to keep up the workload. Green Bay now, for example, has, numerous employees that cover all the different customers and stuff. So, if the city wanted to go back to, a full-time person, you're probably going to have a full-time person and then some just to do it internally in-house.
Yeah, I can.
Thank you. Alderperson Ledvina?
I worked in the office when we transitioned, and prior to transitioning, every quarter it was all hands on deck processing those water bills. It was a nightmare. I was the clerk and I was running stacks of checks just like everybody else, trying to get them to the bank. It was just, everything he's saying is true. It was really taxing, and the phone calls, just the phone calls going away was heaven, because it was constant phone calls. So I totally am on board with this, and we were probably way overdue for a rate increase from them.
I'm not sure if this was brought up and they might have a question. What's the term of this again? I'm looking through the length.
180 days, you can cancel it. There's
The
not a
180?
used to, I could be corrected. It was a 5-year agreement we had before, and then you have your
And now we have the 180. It's
180
pretty standard
days.
now in the biz.
Your 180 day. Yeah, give notice if I read them both.
Is that
I
correct?
read through them both and copied.
That is correct. There is no set term. It's just 180 notice by either party.
Okay, and that seems pretty standard now in the business with all the contracts we do. Okay.
If you don't,
Alderperson Carpenter.
so the total bill is just not adding in your hardware. It's $132,000. We're paying Green Bay and $132,360 to do this. I'm not saying we should bring on an employee. I know too much stuff what went on in 13, 14, and 15 here, so I'm not going to get into all that stuff. I'll just leave it at that. There's more to it than some people think. But another thing, if I read some of my notes somewhere in here, this is kind of wanting to get done really quickly here because they want to have it done by the first of the year. Is that correct?
It is looking to take effect January 1 of 25, yes.
Yeah. So this is my other concern. Why does this come to us such at the last minute that we can't have more discussion, or other people? Now it's going to go to the Common Council, but it's like this is going on. It's just, and this isn't the only thing that has popped up over my years as an alderperson. There's other things that have come up, and It's got to be done now. We got to make a decision now, and I just don't think that's correct, fair.
That might have been the timeliness of when they were meeting. Scott, you want to take that?
So we've been talking to Green Bay for many months. Like Pam had indicated earlier, it took this long to come to terms of the agreement that you see before you. And then getting our city attorney to make sure all the I's are dotted, T's are crossed, and various items. Does it have to be approved so it goes effective? No, if you felt like you wanted more time, but I believe as staff and the diligence that Pam and the city attorney and myself work with Green Bay, I don't think anything's really going to change on it. So really your options are going to be is we look at, going to an agreement with Green Bay, or we're going to have to look at other alternatives. And then, then we're going to be, caught between a rock and a hard stone, what does it do with billing? I mean, we wouldn't bring this forward to the board and then council if we didn't feel really good about the agreement. That's the best I can explain it, why it's not last minute, but we didn't want to bring something that we didn't feel comfortable a couple months ago to you folks.
And I understand that, but once again, this is a 50% increase on people, and I just don't think that's fair that it just comes so quickly. That's what I don't agree with. I'm going to be upfront on that. I think this could have been brought up to us a little sooner. We could have more discussions or whatever, and some people may agree or disagree, but you got a 50% increase here. We're going to have probably quite an increase on our water rates coming up because we got to pay off our debt and everything else. So I'm just saying this is just piling up. You know what I mean? We approved the budget. We got that going to be coming. Now we get this. Maybe people might have different feelings on the budget of how we did some of that stuff with the water utility if we knew this was going to be there. That's my point.
Very good. Thank you. Any other questions we have on this? Alderperson Essercon.
So this was originally a 5-year agreement, and then
Originally it was.
we're just on a.
It's been 180 there.
Should we maybe put something on our end in place to check in on this so it doesn't have it in 10 years and suddenly it's a giant every 3 years?
I'm assuming
check
you
in?
got, I'm not going to assume
I
I'll
don't
let
know.
either of you two answer
Maybe
the
have.
question as far as us monitoring how this is. Pam or Scott?
Well, I mean,
I will,
go ahead.
for my own part, I would recommend that, yes, it gets added like any other contract or agreement we have where we're reviewing it every 3 or 4 years at a minimum to make sure that it still adds up and makes sense for what we're paying. 1 year maybe isn't enough of a time frame to get the right cost, but we could review it again after 1 year even and see what were the true costs to us and what's the increase going to be now, and let's see if it still makes sense. Yes, I do plan on reviewing this contract going forward, or adding it to my list of other contracts to review.
Is that good?
Then so signing this contract then will put us another 5-year.
Nope. Nope. So she'll review it after, not this year, but the next year, and then she can see how it is and possibly bring it back to the board for review on our part. You have 180 days to exit.
Got it.
Yeah.
Right.
Correct, Pam?
Yeah. Correct.
Okay. So she'll add that to the list of the other ones that she reviews annually as well. So, other questions or comments?
So
Alderperson Carpenter.
then if she's going to review this and if in 2 years, we're just going to sign 24, go through 25 and bring it back to us some early 26, I hope. And then we would know the numbers, and then what I'd like to really have our staff do is check into what they think it would cost for an employee, or if you need 2 employees or whatever it is, at least give us some numbers that we have a comparison to. We have no comparison here.
Fair enough.
I mean, unless you want to spit out what a secretary makes with benefits right now, if somebody wants to give that to me, I could go in the pay code and come up with that. Do you know what I mean? But I'm not going to go look at the pay grades. If somebody wants to, tell me what we pay for somebody right now.
Scott?
I mean, we definitely can review it and look at our paths going forward. There's other challenges that first floor has, let alone staffing. If we added staff, I mean, it's going to be coming as part of the budget for 2025. they're out of room down there for the staffing that exists. We're doing a full remodel. They'll get more cubicles and everything for the staff that's been added. If we add more employees, then we're definitely going to have to be evaluating where do we put that staff to relocate the water side of it, relocate finance. I mean, there's a lot of things that'll play into it. I'm not saying it can't be done, but it's just, where we're at tax right now on the first floor for staffing, any additional housing other than what's approved by the budget would be very difficult.
But we can bake it all in.
Yep.
We definitely
It's
can
all,
bake it
it's
in.
all the cost.
Yeah, and I understand that, but
Yeah.
I think that's only fair.
Yep.
You just want options and you want to look
Have
at whatever
at
else
least
is
no
out there.
cost and everything, instead of some coming in front of us and you don't have a cost.
Scott?
The other thing is we can do, I believe I mentioned Bellevue earlier. Once they get done negotiating, we can find out what they're paying, as far as, and again, you gotta realize it's the amount of customers that's billed. It's not necessarily, they're not gonna, it's not apple for apple, it'll be apple to orange, but you get an idea what it's cost per customer for the, the board here. And we can bring an update, in the early 2026, after we get 1 year under this contract, say, here's where it costs, where we're going. We're going to report what other communities may be paying, just to give you a feel for, if we're getting our best bang for our buck on this contract.
I'd be okay with that. Are you typing that in your phone right there?
No,
Alderperson?
I'm just going to do a little quick math then. 9,000 customers we have roughly, if I read this correctly.
9,600, I think, 9,300.
So it comes to 15.93 per customer. If I'm just saying what the fees are. Yeah, I'm just
Yeah, I just did that too.
just do the simple math. I'm just trying to figure out. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good job with the calculator, by the way.
Oh yeah, I had this already. I had notes.
I didn't know what
written up
direction you were
there, buddy.
going.
I wasn't
or
going to
how-
let you get away
If you were
with
going to
it.
get there, that was very good.
I wasn't going to let you get away with a 10-minute meeting.
We'll check your math when we look at the video tomorrow.
There we
Other
go.
questions or comments? And then this will go to council. Correct? Scott?
One of the things just to point out too for the board, is that, the metering, the cost of, Green Bay doing meters, and reading the meters and sending out the bills, the sewer utility pays half of that.
Oh, so that's less than that for the taxpayers. Got it. Thank you. Very good point. All right, that said, any other additional discussion or
It's the
comments?
same bill at the end of the day.
Same bill, yes.
So you can cut the apple any way you want,
Yes.
in half or just the whole apple. Decide how you want it.
We can make a new utility to pay for it, though. Alderperson
Yeah.
Hanson, what do you think of
Yeah,
that?
try that.
Scott?
Well, I'm just bringing it up because we all refer everything to water, the cost of water. I mean,
Yes.
it is shared.
Yes.
On that, so, but you're right, it's all in one bill.
Thank you. I'm
Other
done.
questions, comments? All right, seeing there is none, all those in favor say aye.
I
Oh, I'll make a motion to approve the water utility billing services agreement.
second.
Motion by me, second by Alderperson Ledman. Sorry about that, and great catch. Any additional discussion and/or comments? Seeing there is none, all those in favor say aye.
I
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Again, this will go to council next Tuesday.
Correct.
Item 3, consideration and possible action to delay the reconstruction of Merril Street to 2026. We're going to go to Scott. We're going to go to Eric on this
I'll
one.
take it.
Eric, you take it.
I get to speak.
All right.
So we have Merril Street from Broadway to Erie included in our 2025 capital improvements program for reconstruction. We did that because it was rated between a 3, 4, or 5, depending on which segment you look at. And, the pavement is deteriorated. There's some pedestrian curb ramps we need to do and things like that. Well, now that we've gone through and, we're working on the budget, we've done our survey, we found out that the school district of De Pere is looking at a significant upgrade to their facilities, including a potential new high school. And as part of that, they're going to be doing a TIA, traffic impact analysis, to take a look at what would be required if they added a new high school where the existing high school is and change their grades and change their building uses. And so what they want to do as part of their TIA is look at Merril and Merril and Chicago Street as a one-way pair is one of their evaluations, and that would be similar to how Main and Reed function. But also, we've requested that they take a look at other things such as improvements right at the schools themselves, pedestrian improvements, interconnectivity near between Merril and Chicago when you get near the high school, and things like that. And so the TIA and the outcomes of it might dictate or might impact the design of Merril Street. And again, just to kind of step back so you understand, West De Pere High School completed their upgrade a couple years ago, and they did that TIA. And that TIA had several recommendations, including the rapid rectangular flashing beacons and things like that. It also included traffic signal, which didn't get installed. But any of those improvements come back to the board, staff reviews them, makes recommendation to the board, and then ultimately you would be the ones to review and approve those activities if you're in agreement with them. And then those, in the case of the West De Pere School District, were funded by the school district. The city built them, we bid them, and then we charged the school district. So that's how the one in the past worked, and that's how we would anticipate here. So things that come out of that TIA, we would review, bring it to the board, make recommendations, and then ultimately the board would approve it. But because of that, we're thinking that maybe it makes sense to postpone Merril Street. I know, Alderperson Hanson, you've had concerns with that in the past. I completely get it. There are some bad streets or some bad sections.
Yeah.
But we're just thinking we'd hate to reconstruct it and then something comes in like, oh, we want to add right turn lanes, or oh, you need a pedestrian facility here. And then, we have to pay, or the school district has to pay even more because they have to rip out what's there and put something new in. So we thought it made sense to postpone it a year.
Very good, thank you. Alderperson Hanson.
Yeah, so the whole one-way street idea, I think that is pretty unlikely, but is there other possible changes to Merril, like you just mentioned, I guess, that would cause us to have to redo some work if we did it next year?
I mean, really, there definitely could be. I mean, they could come in and say, hey, we want to put pedestrian bump outs, or we want to put RFBs. RFBs themselves probably wouldn't be a big deal, but if they recommended pedestrian bump outs, if they said, hey, we need to put a right turn lane or something like that in, we just don't know. Because if you look at like the RFBs we put in for the West De Pere School District, the one on Grant Street and the one on 9th Street, both of those were bump outs. We put bump outs in. They were kind of mid-block. Do I anticipate mid-block here? No, because, it's shorter blocks. But we just don't know. I don't know what's going to come out of the TIA.
I mean, they could have different parking lot configurations anywhere along that campus.
Because we talked about, one of the things we recommended, because they sent us a...
You should state as well, too, that you guys offered recommendations.
Yes.
Prior to the TIA. So, and that was based on what they wanted. They wanted some recommendations.
Yeah.
So they have input that will be hopefully within the document that we'll see finally.
Yeah, we hope, because we made things like, they should take a look at even Foxview at Michigan. How does that function? Is there a better way to do drop-offs, pickups? Maybe a driveway gets moved somewhere because of that. I really don't know. You have on-street parking near Foxview on Merril. Maybe that would change. So that's why we thought it may make sense just to wait. If you don't agree, we can go ahead with it. We did our survey. We were set. But we thought it would make sense to postpone it, and that's why we're bringing it to the board.
So I'm going to go to Scott really quickly here.
The other big thing is we've been having issues with parking around the high school since I've been here for 20 years. And we try always to address with the high school to do something. They're like, kind of like not my problem type of a thing. So we want them to evaluate the parking on Lone Oak, Merril Street, because all those issues we have and all those side streets for those residents are really from the high school. And if they're going to expand on the high school, the problem even gets worse.
And we did redo Merril Street from Erie to Lone Oak just a couple of years ago, so that could be impacted as well.
Yeah, but that was more of a resurfacing type project, so it's not quite the same. When we're doing a reconstruct, that's a big one where we rip all the curb and gutter out, and there's more significant changes. Versus a mill and resurface, you're leaving the curb and gutter in for the most part right where it is, because you're only going to replace it if it's in bad shape.
Now, the section between Huron and Superior is in especially rough condition. I know Tony has tried the mastic machine on it a couple of times. So if we don't do this next year, are we just going to keep trying to patch it, or?
That's all we can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one more year.
And then if we do not do this project next year, do we just borrow less, or do we redirect it to a different reconstruction project?
I guess that's up to the board. We weren't necessarily proposing anything different. So we weren't proposing, I mean, the money's geared towards this street. So if we
It'll stay
didn't,
with the street.
yeah, it stays with the street. We're not going to use this. It's not like when the resurfacing, we got money set for resurfacing. And okay,
Yeah.
if a street gets thrown out, we can throw another street in. We weren't going to do,
Okay.
we're not going to do another street.
How many streets do you want?
I just,
All of them.
that was going to be my comment. This is not going to be funds now. That's just going to be, oh, we got $535,000. We're just going to go spend that. And then next year it comes around the budget.
No.
We're going to find another
I want to stay with Merril.
$535,000.
Scott?
Well, and then what we typically do on projects, or even equipment, we go to bonding, it's the actual costs. Equipment comes in high, we bond more. It comes in lower, we bond less. Our projects come in high, we bond more. We come in less, we bond less. This particular project was slated for bonding. If we don't do the project and the council doesn't want to do anything, that's roughly, I think, $500,000 that won't be included in the bonding for 25.
Was it in July when we bond?
Correct.
July, correct? Yeah, that's when we know all the
Yeah.
final projects, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it should be, our bonding should be down $500,000.
Correct. Right. Alderperson Hanson, I don't think.
I'm
you're
good
done
for
yet.
now. Yep. I'm good.
Really?
Yeah, I am.
By the way, just so we can keep going here, I would make the motion to, because we need a motion on this, to delay the reconstruction of Merril Street to 2026.
I'll second that.
Motion by me, seconded by Alderperson Carpenter. Additional discussion and/or comments, and this does go to council, I see, correct? Additional discussion or comments? All right, seeing there are none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Up next, we have future agenda items. Alderperson Hanson, I don't think we have to worry about the one that you will have in January, right? You don't have to state that as a future agenda one.
Yeah, I mean, I
Because it's
can,
going
but,
to go on anyway. Okay, I just want to clarify. Because if you don't say it now, it's not going to go on.
okay. Yeah, so it is,
No, it's going.
It's going on. Just
Okay.
making up.
it's about trees. You won't be surprised about that.
Future agenda items, anybody? All right. Up next, I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by me, seconded by Alderperson Ledvin. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We're officially adjourned.